In the lively city of Chicago, Illinois, where the skyline stretched high above Lake Michigan and the streets were always alive with sound, lived a woman named Sarah Mitchell. Sarah was 31 years old, a high school art teacher who carried an easy warmth wherever she went. She had always been someone who poured her heart into others, her students, her friends, and her family, but she often neglected her own desires. Her life was comfortable yet predictable, until a series of encounters shook the careful balance she had built. Sarah had been single for nearly 3 years after a quiet breakup with her college sweetheart. Her friends often encouraged her to start dating again, but she resisted, convinced that maybe her chance at love had already passed. She filled her evenings with painting, lesson planning, and walks through Millennium Park. Yet, despite all her busyness, loneliness was a steady shadow that followed her. One rainy evening after school, Sarah stayed late preparing an art exhibit for her students. She was arranging canvases when Daniel Carter, a fellow teacher who worked in the English department, stopped by. Daniel was 34, with an easygoing smile and a reputation for being patient with students who often struggled with writing. They had exchanged pleasantries before, but never more than that. Yet, that night, as the rain tapped gently against the windows, their small talk stretched into real conversation. They laughed about their teaching struggles, shared stories of their past, and for the first time, Sarah felt truly seen. Over the weeks that followed, their connection grew naturally. They found themselves lingering in the teacher's lounge, sharing coffee in the mornings, and exchanging knowing smiles across the cafeteria. Daniel, who had been through his own heartbreak, understood Sarah's guardedness. She found comfort in his kindness and admired his quiet strength. Neither of them had planned for it, but soon, the line between friendship and something more began to blur. One Friday evening, after a long week at school, Daniel invited Sarah to a small bookstore cafe downtown. It was one of those hidden gems with shelves of old books and live jazz music drifting in the background. Sarah hesitated at first, unsure if this was just two colleagues hanging out or something more, but she went anyway. That night, surrounded by books and soft laughter, Sarah realized how deeply she had missed feeling connected to someone. As the months unfolded, their bond grew stronger. They explored the city together, taking boat rides on the Chicago River, visiting art galleries, and walking along Navy Pier. For Sarah, every moment with Daniel felt like a reminder that life wasn't about playing it safe but about allowing herself to feel again. There were moments of hesitation, moments where she questioned if moving forward was the right choice, but each time she looked into Daniel's steady eyes, she found the courage to let herself be vulnerable. Their relationship wasn't perfect. They had disagreements, fears, and moments of silence when the weight of their pasts threatened to pull them apart. Sarah worried about whether this was moving too fast, and Daniel struggled with balancing his career aspirations with his growing love for her. But through every doubt, they always returned to each other, drawn by something neither of them could ignore. The turning point came during Sarah's student art show. She had poured her heart into preparing the event, nervous about whether her students' work would be appreciated. Daniel arrived early, bringing flowers and staying by her side as she guided parents and colleagues through the gallery. That night, watching him encourage her students and support her so effortlessly, Sarah realized she didn't have to keep holding back. She didn't have to stop herself from feeling joy, love, and hope again. As the evening ended, Sarah stood outside the gallery with Daniel, the city lights reflecting on the wet pavement. She felt the weight of her choices pressing against her heart. For years, she had stopped herself from moving forward, stopped herself from opening up. But not anymore. Looking at Daniel, she thought, I didn't stop, and neither did he. Their story wasn't about perfection but about courage. The courage to begin again, to keep going despite fear, and to embrace love when it arrived unexpectedly. For Sarah, what started as an ordinary friendship in the hallways of a Chicago high school had become the love story she never thought she would find. And as she walked forward into the night, hand in hand with Daniel, she knew she had chosen not to stop living, not to stop hoping, and not to stop loving.